This tiny island nation is smaller than New York City, but it's the wealthiest country in Asia and one of the richest in the world. Its GDP per capita has surpassed the likes of the UK, the US, France, and other developed countries, reaching approximately $84,000 in 2023. Singapore's total GDP was over $500 billion in 2023, ranking it among the top 40 economies globally despite its small size. Over 6 decades, Singapore has transformed itself from a colonial trading port to a buzzing financial center that's envied the world over. It's held up as an example for any country seeking to grow a robust, high-tech economy. Its wealth is the product of decades of planning by a party that's been in power since independence. So, what's Singapore's formula for success? And as its leadership changes for the first time in 20 years, can it continue to prosper? So, what was the Lee Kuan Yew's strategy? When Singapore became independent in 1965, the first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, and other founding leaders recognized it had an economic problem. It had no natural resources. So if they wanted to develop an export-led economy and attract foreign capital, they would need to build up the country's manufacturing industry. Its strategic location gave it an edge, providing access to the Strait of Malacca, the Indian Ocean, and the South China Sea, making it a pivotal shipping hub. Initially, Singapore transformed into a manufacturing base with a focus on labor-intensive industries, such as textiles and electronics, to address high unemployment rates, which were over 10% in the early 1960s. By the late 1970s, the unemployment rate had dropped significantly, showcasing the effectiveness of this strategy. In the decades after independence, Singapore rapidly developed from a low-income country to a high-income one. GDP growth in the city-state has been among the world's highest, at an average of about 7% since independence and topping 9.2% in the first 25 years. After rapid industrialization in the 1960s catapulted the island nation's development trajectory, manufacturing became the main driver of growth. The manufacturing and services sectors remain the twin pillars of Singapore's high value-added economy. However, Lee only ever intended manufacturing as a stepping stone to a more developed economy. He laid the fundamentals for long-term success: a solid financial and legal system, a stable and largely clean government, efficient public transport, and world-class healthcare infrastructure. For instance, Singapore's healthcare system is ranked among the best globally, with the World Health Organization placing it 6th worldwide. The establishment of Jurong Industrial Estate in the 1960s, which attracted multinational corporations like Shell and Texas Instruments, was a pivotal move that solidified Singapore's manufacturing prowess. Finance transformation. In the 1980s, Lee started laying the groundwork for what is now one of Singapore's biggest source of wealth: finance. Following the lead of places like the US and UK, he liberalized the financial services industry with lighter touch regulation. This transformation attracted global banks and financial institutions, turning Singapore into a leading financial hub. Today, over 4,200 multinational companies have regional headquarters here. Low taxes are a significant reason for that, with Singapore's corporate tax rate at just 17%. Which can go as low as 13.5% or lower for specific activities. This fiscal strategy was part of Lee's successor, Goh Chok Tong's policies, further enhancing the business-friendly environment. Singapore shifted emphasis to a knowledge-based economy, relying more on creativity and growing local entrepreneurs. In 2004, Lee Hsien Loong, Lee Kuan Yew's eldest son, took over as Prime Minister. He recognized the need to make Singapore an even more attractive place to live, retaining the flow of businesses and wealth. Under his leadership, initiatives such as the Smart Nation program aimed to transform Singapore through digital innovation, attracting tech giants like Google and Facebook to set up significant operations in the country. Leisure and entertainment became another important feature of the country. With its prime location, Singapore had to become a destination in itself. This transformation has been key to its success. In the 1970s, Singapore embarked on an ambitious land reclamation project, increasing its land area by about 25%. This reclaimed space was filled with not just offices and apartment buildings, but entertainment hubs, changing the city's skyline in the process. Iconic landmarks like Marina Bay Sands and Gardens by the Bay emerged, drawing tourists and business travelers alike. One notable example was introducing the F1 night race in 2008, making Singapore the first to host a Formula One race at night. This event alone attracts over 250,000 visitors annually, contributing significantly to the local economy. The government also welcomed casinos or integrated resorts, like Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa. The timing was impeccable as the Chinese and Indian economies were booming, and Singapore was ideally situated to attract the region's ultra-wealthy, who could enjoy the casinos and nightlife but also park their money in a stable financial environment. The results were staggering. The total value of assets under management in Singapore jumped from $420 billion at the start of Lee Hsien Loong's tenure to $3.6 trillion in 2022. Singapore's economic success is also evident in its export figures. In 2022, Singapore's total exports amounted to approximately $638 billion, making it one of the top 20 exporters in the world. Major export commodities include electronics, pharmaceuticals, and refined petroleum products. Additionally, Singapore's investment environment remains highly attractive, with foreign direct investment, FDI, inflows reaching around $100 billion annually. While Singapore has been an economic success, Singapore's challenges its leadership is criticized by some for the restrictions on civil liberties and the media. Freedom of the press and freedom of the news media must be subordinated to the overriding needs of the integrity of Singapore. Under Lee Kuan Yew's governance, one of the chief criticisms was the climate of fear in Singapore, where people were afraid to criticize the government. Subsequent governments have also faced criticism for maintaining a tight grip. Protests are still largely illegal, with strict laws regulating public assembly and expression. The government is definitely aware that its population is changing. It is much more diverse and vocal. At the same time, Singapore needs to stay competitive as other countries learn from its growth model. Climate change is becoming a threat to national security, with rising sea levels posing a significant risk to this low-lying island nation. Singapore has invested heavily in climate resilience, including a $72 billion plan to protect its coastlines over the next century. This is the Singapore that Lawrence Wong leadership transition is inheriting as the country's new prime minister. Wong, who grew up in public housing, earned praise for his leadership in the country's COVID-19 response, showcasing a more empathetic and inclusive governance style. He is seen as having more of a common man's touch. Wong emphasized, "We should build on what we have today. We should affirm and reinforce what works well for Singapore." While the People's Action Party, PAP, still forms the ruling government, its popularity is declining. There will be more intense politicking in the years to come than ever before. The buildup of wealth has brought problems of its own. Housing prices have increased significantly, with the average cost of a home rising by about 5% annually over the past decade. The cost of living has gone up, making it one of the most expensive cities globally. Part of Singapore's growth model has been to attract foreign labor. However, excessive foreign worker inflow raises concerns among citizens that foreigners are taking too many good jobs. For example, in 2020, nearly 1.4 million of Singapore's 5.7 million residents were non-residents, highlighting the significant foreign workforce presence. While inequality has been statistically reduced, some residents still feel left behind. The rapidly aging population, with nearly 1 in 4 Singaporeans expected to be 65 or older by 2030, will add pressure to workforce growth and government spending. Meanwhile, in the most recent World Bank Human Capital Index, Singapore ranks the best country in the world in human capital development. This means that a child born today in Singapore will be 88% as productive when she grows up, as if she enjoyed complete education and full health. Together with strong financial support from the government, the country continues to strengthen the nimbleness and flexibility of its workforce by providing continuing education such as the Skills Future initiative. Government spending on continuing education has reached $0.9 billion yearly, so whether it's managing discontent or guiding Singapore's continued evolution into a tech hub, Wong's job is to sustain the city-state's hard-earned success.